Hello and welcome back to another episode of WWBTD. What would the behavior team do? We are on episode 4, believe it or not, of our mini series, More Than a Para. And we have with us the wonderful Scott Todd and Monte Hill as our special guests. And of course, you know these ladies well. We have Ashley Mosley and Shalonda Woods. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. So to get us started, we have our usual icebreaker, but it is going to be a new one. What is your favorite seat on an airplane and why? Scott, please start us off.
I always need an aisle seat. I've got long legs and just need that little bit of extra room, but I pay the penalty by having my shoulders smashed every time anybody goes up and down the aisle. That's just kind of how it goes. So a little bit of a trade-off, but that's all right.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. Monte, what about you? What's your favorite seat?
I prefer to sit in the middle of the plane where, yeah, okay. And I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Not just because they tell you that you're going to be taking the leader role if something happens, if the plane goes down, but it's more room. They give you more room right there in the middle. There's more room, more leg room. And I also like to sit by a window because sometimes I get claustrophobic and people walking past and stuff, and that kind of drives me a little nuts. But I like to sit next to a window so I can look out the window and see the clouds and just see the scenery. So yeah, that would be my perfect.
Nice. How picturesque. I love that. Ashley, what about you?
Window seat.
Window.
By the window, because if I'm tired, I can lay on the wall. I control the window.
Right.
I feel you on that. Yes. What about you?
Window seat all the way.
That's a good one, Ash.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ashley and Monte. I like the window. I like being able to look out the window. I don't like a lot of traffic passing in front of me. And like Ashley said, you can use the side of the plane to rest your head on. It's more comfortable.
Yeah. I used to be a window seater for all the same reasons that you guys mentioned, but I have to say, in my old age, I really love the aisle seat because I need the control. Again, it's a control thing to get up whenever I need. Like, it gives me anxiety. God forbid, because I travel, I'm usually by myself on an airplane. It just seems like it. So if I have to, if someone is asleep in the middle, what am I supposed to do? If I'm with family, I can climb over, I can hit them in the head, I can do whatever. But if these are strangers, I'm trapped, and that's very exciting for me. But anyway, all good reasons. I respect all of your answers, but
you know what? One thing, Kate. Sitting next to a window, you only have that one person. When you sit in the middle, you have two strangers on the side of you where you can't lean your head that way.
No, middle is not the way. That we can all agree on that. I think that's not the right answer. Okay, so moving on to paraprofessional discussion. So everyone here has been a paraprofessional for a variety amount of years. So Monte, I'm going to start with you. Tell me what was your journey in becoming a para?
So my journey becoming a para, actually, I didn't know I was going to become a para. I didn't want to become a para. Didn't have no clue about what a para does. But how I ended up in the position was because, of course, you guys know that at the time I only had 2 kids and I was a single parent. And I had lost my job at Mervyn's, the department store. And I had a friend, my best friend at the time. She had heard about DPS hiring sub-paras, and they didn't need a lot of requirements. Only thing you needed was your high school diploma and your ID, and they did a background check. And so she was like, Monte, I think this would be good. You know, you can pick your own schedule, pick your own time. You know, you can do it during the day when your kids are at school. And she was just like, yeah, the money's easy. So I was like, oh, okay. So I met with a lady named Lois Berry. Scott, I don't know if you remember Lois. So I met with a lady named Lois Berry on 900 Grant Street. And I got on really easy. It was easy. But going into my first school, which was Merrill, I think it was Merrill. And they give you your assignments. They call you. This was before all the computers and stuff. So they call you and they give you your assignment, and it's your choice if you want to pick up that assignment. And so I decided to pick it up, and the assignment was at Merrill, and it was working with a student who had a severe disability, who was in a wheelchair, who was nonverbal. He only way he could communicate was through like nodding his head.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't tell me anything else. They just said, yeah, just show up, and this will be your go-to person to talk to. And yeah, that was it.
Oh, that's
And I
safe.
was,
Yeah. That's safe. That's good. Okay.
yeah, I guess, you know. And so I had no clue. So I'm a sped para, something I signed up for, had no clue on how to work with sped kids, kids in general. Like, I never worked with kids outside of my own kids. And so I walked into this classroom, and like I'm fearful right now, because I'm walking into a classroom full of kids with a teacher who is probably like, who is this lady? Who is this black girl coming into my classroom? Does she even know what she's doing? So I introduced myself, and yeah, so I started working with this boy for maybe like a couple of days. It was a struggle trying to communicate with him. But then on my first day, but then like my second and third day, you know, we were doing okay. So after that, I got sent everywhere, because I was a special ed sub para. I got sent everywhere. I was at Horseman for as a long-term sub. That's before it became Vista. I think, is it Trey Vista? I was there for a long period of time. And so then once I was at Trey Vista, or a Horseman, for probably like the end of the school year, from like March to May or June. And that was an experience for me, because this was before they came up with effective needs. It was considered MI. And the kids were good kids, but they came from a lot of trauma. They came from homes where they didn't feel wanted. They came from homes that there wasn't parents there. There were grandparents or foster care. So that was a little struggle for me, because I felt like at times they didn't respect me, because here I'm this new person coming in, and they probably just felt like, oh, she's not important to us. She don't know who we are. She don't know where we come from. She don't know our history, our background. And I really didn't. I didn't, because the teacher was not, at that time, she just wasn't the nicest teacher at times, and she was very hard to approach. And so I didn't ask. I didn't know anything about these kids' backgrounds. I didn't.
Right.
And so that was a learning experience for me, starting off in a sub para.
I mean, that's a big learning curve. I mean, we talk about relationships and how important that is, especially with AN students. But it's like, if you don't, you know, it's just not setting you up for success. I'm happy to hear that, you know, you at least, it seems like your intuition kicked in when you first started and you really were able to have some success with that first student at school. And clearly you stuck around, right?
I did.
Yeah. And it opened so many doors for you.
It did. It did. I mean, like, I'm very grateful and appreciative of for DPS because it has opened so many doors for me. It has allowed me to get where I'm at today, you know, and just from the experiences, you know, I've worked at several schools before I became a tech. I was at McGlone, I worked at Martin Luther King Early College, and just over the years, like when I think back, I tell people, like, I wasn't the greatest para. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I didn't have the proper trainings. They wasn't giving paras trainings back then. It wasn't offered to us. We did it was because, you know, now they say, okay, well, you have to have a college degree, you know, at least have an associate's. You didn't have to have any of that back then. And, you know, I think since we didn't need that, nothing else was required of us, you know, nothing else was given to us. So the trainings, nothing. So what I did when I started working at McGlone, I worked with a teacher by the name of Cassie Mayer, and it was her first year being a teacher. On Fridays, it was ELC. That's what it was called. Like, it's like instead of ECSE, it was ELC. So it was like early learning childhood for students with disabilities. And so on Fridays, we didn't have kids. And she would say, Monte, I'm going to this training, but it will be like a training with other ECE teachers or ELC teachers. And it'll probably be like 4, 5, 6 of them. And I would just follow along with her. I'm like, can I go? You know, I just want to hear what, you know, teachers talk about or what they got to say. And I will be the only para in these meetings, the only one. So I'll just sit back and listen and watch. And those were the only trainings I would get.
That's amazing that you were even able to go. And I'm actually, but the lack of training is a common experience, I think. When we've been, you know, when we've interviewed, you know, in a few episodes ago, you know, Ash, Shalonda, they, you know, you guys can both relate. There wasn't really any training, but I wanted to go to Scott because he had a little bit of a different experience starting out, but I really want to hear the story of how you got hired. And then if you can go into your experience of, you know, your experience with training. Did you get it? Did you not? So take it away, Scott.
So this would have been 2000. So, you know, 20 so years ago. And I needed a job. I was living in my mother's basement and she was getting fed up with me being there and was like, you need to get a job. And I was like, you know, I'm trying a whole bunch, but then nobody's calling me back. And she was like, okay, cool. I am the psychologist at an elementary school and they need a paraprofessional and you are going to apply. So I did my absolute best to bomb the interview. My resume looked terrible because it should. I didn't make it, it was terrible. And I went in and the principal gave me a tour of the school, and walking around, I was like, I know what I'm going to say. And when we got to the interview part, I said, I don't even think there's a need to keep going because you're obviously sexist. You only hire women. So I don't know what the point is. Why am I even here? We should probably just end this right now. And she just kind of nodded and was like, well, let's just keep going just in case. We finished the meeting. And she was like, that's great. You can start this afternoon because we need somebody down in the kindergarten room because they just need a body down there. So no background check, no anything. They just sent me down there. No training really at all. They just kind of sent me down. That was my start, was just kindergarten helping out. Over the next sort of few years, I started working with the deaf and hard of hearing population and some other sort of special ed groups. And I really started to get a lot more training. So back then they were offering a whole bunch of like, here's how you do reading assessments. Here is how you teach reading intervention. Here's how you teach math interventions. here's a whole bunch of these sort of things. I had the opportunity to,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I just can't believe, like, this is the first time I'm hearing this, that like this is offered. It's incredible.
this, and it was fantastic. A lot of times I was the only paraprofessional there, but I was sent. I definitely went. I took advantage of this and learned an awful lot, to the point that I was given a room and had kids that I was coming in and they were, getting math instruction or, sort of small group, but I had my own room and kids were coming in and it was wonderful. But then DPS is all about swinging pendulums kind of back and forth, and slowly but surely less and less training was offered. And then after, I think, my 6th or so year, I noticed that instead of actually working with students, I was doing between 4 and 5 hours of playground and lunchroom duty, which just meant standing around outside, or I got really good at opening milk cartons, and my special trick is breaking a banana in half. That's how I open bananas now. That's my thing. If you hand me a banana, I'm just gonna break it and hand it back to you. That's just kind of what I do. But that became so much of my time in the building. And I was finally just asking, I'm like, I have a lot of training. I've done a lot of stuff. And I really feel like my skills just aren't being utilized. But they really needed somebody out on the playground. And my work out there, building relationships with students and kind of connecting, that I enjoyed that, definitely. But it didn't feel like my talents were being utilized all that well. So.
Yeah, that's super frustrating. I can understand why you're going from being like this essentially a specialist in the building to, a permanent lunch, banana breaker. So yeah, I mean, fun in that moment, but I'm sure that got old. So I wanted to ask you too, did you find that the relationship with the other adults in the building and really in those classrooms, because you both bounced around, from what we hear. And did you feel like those relationships with those adults had an impact with how you did your job effectively?
I think for me, a lot of the teachers that I was working with had history with working with other paraprofessionals. Again, this was back in the day where you didn't really need any sort of education. They were just looking for a body. So a lot of the teachers that I was working with were just used to like looking at their paraprofessionals as, this person isn't going to be that well educated. They're not going to know anything. And this is essentially like another child in my room that I have to deal with. So when treated like that, it definitely took a little bit of time to sort of say like, okay, you've asked me to do this and I'm going to take care of that. But how do I let you know that not only for you, but for the students in your room, there's a whole lot more that I could be doing if you utilized my skills and if you kind of took the time to get to know me. So.
Yeah. Can you relate to that, Monte?
Yeah, I really want you to repeat the question over again so I can process it.
Yeah, sure. Did you find the relationships with the other adults in the building or in the classroom had an impact on your ability to do your job effectively?
Sometimes, yes. And for me, everybody knew I'm like this social butterfly, right? And so I got along with a lot of the teachers who I had to work with due to outside of the classroom that I worked in, actually, due to, because we did a lot of inclusion. And like some of the kids who I worked with were going to ECE or, specials. And so I would build relationships with teachers outside the classroom. Now the teachers who I worked with in the classroom, sometimes I felt like it became an issue at times because I'm all about teamwork. I'm all about, we're both adults here for the students rather than, oh, I'm the teacher and you're the para and this is how this is going to go. And, and I felt like sometimes, a lot of the times I was in those situations where the teachers who I worked with didn't respect me as a person. they, just like what Scott said, it was like a body in the classroom, because there was times where I would be the only one changing a bunch of diapers all day, changing diapers. Um, or you know, like chasing after the kids. And that's how people got to know me in the building, because I was the one chasing after the kids, you know, down the hallway, you know, or, you know, picking them up from the school bus or dropping them off at the school bus. So that's how other teachers, you know, would see me, you know, and ask me, or ask me if I needed help. But as far as like in the classroom with the teacher who I was working with, there was struggles at times. And I know as far as me, I eventually I ended up, I was like, you know what, I need to hold myself accountable for some of the things, because it's not just them, it's me too, you know. And you know, it took a lot of growth for me to get where I'm at now. But working in the classroom with the teacher, it was a struggle, because it was almost like at times I was being belittled, you know, for not having that, you know, that degree, or not being the teacher, or not because I like Scott, I mean, like he had those skills. I just came into a position where at the time I just needed a job to take care of my kids, you know. So trainings and learning about assessments and stuff, I didn't know anything about that, and I felt like that's how they treated me. Like, oh, she don't have the skills, she don't really just know anything, she is just a body. So at times that's how I felt. Like I would go in the bathroom and cry, because I felt like I wasn't respected as a person.
Right. But it's amazing too that it's like, you know, clearly these people rely on you. Like, what would happen if there weren't any paras in the school?
Tell
Right?
me about it.
It's like, it's crazy. So it's like it's almost this level system even among adults. It's pretty incredible.